Let's have another quick look at what I'm doing here. I've gone just a little bit further, starting to add some detail, thinking a little bit more about the construction of the crate itself. You've got to go look at your reference. I'm going for an old beaten up one, obviously, here. So something I've gone and added a bunch of is just, cracked edges wherever the boards come to an end, where the boards, this is an old wooden crate, and it's getting cracked. Now, something else that what I see are these impossible or unlikely, I should say, wood crates, because wood crates tend to be rough anyways. And what I mean by that is I'll see these unlikely corners, unlikely construction. If you notice, you can see the edge of this front board here, and you can't see the edge of this one. If you just draw it so it looks like this on the edge, it's unlikely. Now, it's possible to do in woodworking. I'm a woodworker. I've got a woodworking shop. You can do this, but you wouldn't build a crate this way, especially for shipping something like this or whatever. If you look at it from the top, what you've had to do to actually build this wood crate is you've got two pieces of wood that come together here, and you've had to miter the corners, and you've had to do this nice job of mitering these corners together, okay, and put this nice angled cut in there. You're just not going to do that in a crate. What you're going to do is you're going to simply take one piece and the other piece, and you're going to butt them together, okay? And that's going to be about that. To hold them together, you're probably also going to add a piece of wood inside here so that you can add screws through the end or nails and into this piece of wood as well and crisscross the nails. Now, something else to note, if you look at this, nails are going to run into each other. So, if that's the case, and we've got this here, what you'll generally want to find is the nails might be offset a bit so they don't run into each other, and they're not colliding with one another so much. I mean, you could put them in the same places and they'd hit and probably bend off or whatever, but not if there's something like screws or something really trying to hold things together well. So you got to be a little careful when you design this. That even though it's you could be going kind of cartoony and pushing it, everything needs to have a plausibility to it, and then it'll read better. It'll belong and it'll look correct. Relative scales of elements, like we decided on this piece down here, are going to matter, and it's going to help a lot. So I've also gone and damaged and added a few other details that you may not think about. They had to make the top and the bottom panels here. And if that's the case, and you can see this is busted up, that means we're going to see the edges of the boards across the top here. And I've also added them along the bottom. And again, they're going to split along the grain in those places and start splitting along those grain lines and creating splits or whatever, um, in those areas as it gets used. Now, also, I'm going to go beat the edge of this up probably even more because this animal's torn this apart. He's managed to knock this board right out of here and broken it, and it would have, probably had nails going up into it. And I'm going to add some bent nails and splinter some of the board ends here so that it looks like it's coming apart. That'll really start to sort of sell the overall feel of it. I've added damage on the corners where I've just sort of erased a line, then added a little curve where there's pieces missing. It's been dropped and bounced and bumped and everything else along the bottom edge. The bottom edge should get probably really damaged if it's getting put down on there all the time. Top edge, maybe not as much, but I've done some fun ones up there that look pretty cool. And I've given it thickness to the edge of this board, and you can see the thickness here. Then you don't see the thickness over here because likelihood is this facing board is going to be the same on this side as well. So they're going to be the same way around. So we're not going to see the edge of a board over here, but we will over on this side because this panel has been built. This whole side will have been built. This whole side will have been built, and then they would have been bolted together to keep them together, screwed together, nailed together. However, you're holding the pieces together. You're going to get that look and feel to it. Now, the other thing is what's holding all this together. So I don't have any nails in it yet. I haven't started putting too many pieces, but I did add this one here. And also, let's actually just quick look at layers again too. What I'm doing is as I'm going, I drew the basic box on a layer, okay? And now I'm starting to add detail areas in separate layers so I can manage them and work with them a little bit more and deal with them. Whoops. And it looks like I'm, come on, recording or something's messing with my zooms. And looks like I erased a piece by mistake, so I'm just going to go fix that. So you can see I've added that bottom one in a layer. It's going to be able to manage that better. I'm going to be able to manage the damage up top better. It's on a separate layer. And then the other one I've added is something to start holding it together. So what I've done here is I've considered a bolt that runs throughout the box from side to side and is going to hold pieces together, and there's probably something inside. I'm going to need it here. I'm going to need it there. I'm going to need it here. I'm going to need it here. I'm going to need it here. And I'm lazy. So I'm not going to draw all of those. I'm going to copy and paste the layer. So you can do it a couple of ways. One, you can go copy paste. You can also right click on layers and you know, find them in here. But the easiest way is just holding down Alt. Okay. And then just simply drag the layer up and you'll have a second layer. Go to your move tool, which is V, and we're going to have a problem here that we're going to keep missing on the selections or selecting the wrong one. So I'm going to turn off my auto selection here. And I'm just going to grab that and slide it over to the other side. Okay. So now we've got that one there. You can also just alt drag right here. So I'm just going to alt drag it down, which is going to be easy now because of um, the you know, auto select being off. Sorry. I'm going to go back to the previous. I'm not going to do this one first just because this will illustrate the problem a bit more. So I'm going to stick this one down here. So what you can see is this one here is now on an angle on the bottom. It's not following the line across, and I'm going to have to draw that steel bar going across as well in there. When it's there, but it's not on the right angle. So simply Control T on it, put your mouse outside of it. Let's rotate it into an angle that looks more correct. You know, still not quite. I'm just going to go Control T again and maybe like that. And you know, that probably is not too bad. Maybe it's gonna be bent too because the animals bent it. Actually, that'd be really cool, right? Because the animals had to escape here, so he's had to bend it. They're all story elements. They're gonna help. And I'm going to want this over on the other side here. So I'm going to drag and drop that there. And it looks like it might be because, again, because of, um, you know, it being in a different location, might need to be a bit different angle. This one might need to be a bit different angle. I think it looks pretty good. And it's like a metal plate with a bolt on it and a rod, steel rod going through. And then I'm going to need them as well. I'm going to need them on the front. So I want to go grab maybe that one and stick this one here. So now we can go about mirroring that. And there's you know, a bunch of tools for being able to do that sort of thing. And so if you go into Edit, Transform, flip horizontal, flip vertical. So flip vertical will get you up and down, obviously. Flip horizontal is going to get you side to side, and we can drop it on the other side. Now, again, note, these two are going to collide definitely with each other. It's a big steel rod. So we really need to sort of concern ourselves with these two just running into one another. So I'm going to move that up a bit. I'm going to concern myself again with the angle of it to make sure it looks mostly right. And I'm going to even try holding down Control and just skew it out a bit so it's a little rounder or something there on the top. The way I've drawn it isn't quite right. Might want to go mess with it a bit more. Maybe I want to flip it over entirely so it looks a little bit different. Maybe I could even redraw bits of it. You know, it's up to you if it looks too, what do you call it? To sort of the same as the others, right? Um, it's not going to be as that big a deal, but so again, I'm going to drop that over here, and we'll probably have to change the angle a little bit to get it to match our lines underneath. And then I'm going to have to copy that up to there. Same thing. I'm going to have to go in and change the angle a fair bit to get it to match like it's coming down. Probably, I'm guessing there-ish. We'll see what happens. And then the previous one, I'm guessing No. So that one. I'm going to grab this one for the fun of it. Don't really need to. I could have grabbed the other one and just rotated it. I don't know why I did that, but hey, I did. And again, let's concern ourselves with where this is. I'm going to move the ones on these sides up and down, I think. So this one, is that one? Yeah, I want to move these ones down like they're not colliding with the ones that are further up as much. And that should look pretty good, I hope. I think that's this one. Yes, and I'll just move that one up a little bit so it kind of matches. And that's giving me some, some stuff that's starting to hold the box together. It immediately adds some extra detail. It looks more interesting, and the box starts really getting flushed out. So I'm going to add damage to all these sideboards along the edges and stuff. And based on my design here, I'm going to have some printing on the side. Probably I'm going to want to get this cage thing in the front here. And so I need to sketch that in now. I'm just going to do it on a new layer. I'm going to think about some extra nails and stuff. And again, those bent nails along the bottom and how this box has been used and then what has happened to it and why. I'm thinking possibly it's tried to escape before, so there's some extra boards been nailed on the sides or something to try and help support it. um, and ideas like that. What's the story? Always go back to the story. Stop just trying to draw a box and your crate, a wood crate, and draw the story and think about where it is, who's using it, how it's being used, what's its history, how, where's it been in the world, where is it in the world, that sort of thing. And it actually starts drawing itself, which is really cool. We should also decide what we're going to do with all these new layers we've just created. Um, I've just created a pile of new layers and it's going to be insane. So there's the first one. And then it goes up to the last one here. So we're going from layer 11 to a copy of layer 11, which is up here, where we eventually place them all. And, this is just silliness. Don't leave it like this. You'll have no idea what you're doing with it. You can do one of two things. One is you can create a group. Now, something to note, if you take all of the layers you've currently have, so layer 11 to copy of a layer 11, I'm just going to shift select them all and then add a group. It'll automatically group them together and close the group for you. So you could, call this, bolts, right? And you know how to get back to them all. Now, that being said, I don't know why I'd keep these all on separate layers, at this point. There really is no good reason for it. They're all separate entities that would be easy to select and work with if I wanted. So really what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say merge layers from that, and it's going to merge them down into one layer. And in that case, I could either just put them back into the regular sketch folder or keep them in its own folder, just, in case when I start doing other things like, painting them or something, I could keep other things in that folder. But, I could easily go and do this. But what I would probably start doing is I would start naming some layers, because you can again really quickly find yourself trying to find layers, and you literally just, it's faster to name the layer than it is to try and find the layer again once you've got 100 layers going. So I've got top damage here, so it's top damage, uh, breakout damage, and I'll just put crate. So now it's going to get easier and easier for me to be able to find these bits and pieces. I mean, I don't go crazy naming everything. If I've got other things that are underneath bolts, I kind of assume it's part of bolts. But if they're whole new large entities, I'm going to start naming them, just because I'll tell you now, you're going to waste lots of your time in Max, Maya, in After Effects, in Photoshop, in substance if you don't start getting used to naming stuff. That, and production wise, you pass on something to me that has no naming conventions, it's a nightmare to try and go through. So for that, let me actually go and see if I can find a quick reference for a file that you might like to have a look at. So I'm sure a lot of you have played or seen at least the BioShock series of games. I worked on versions 1 and 2, 1 for just the trailer, but 2 I did the entire character pipeline. I did not create this texture map. It was painted by somebody else. This is a UVW unwrap. You may not be aware of what it is yet at this point in your 3D careers. But this is hand painted. It wasn't done in Substance. It was done years ago, so it was all hand painted in Photoshop. And that is the texture map for the character Big Sister. And if we take a look at the layers here that this person has worked in, you'll notice it's a very long list. Some things have been named, groups have generally been named. It's got some identifying information, 3, 4, 5, 6. God knows, maybe those are UV unwrap things or something he's referring to. But those are the layers that were generated when Big Sister's texture was created. So, and looks like the original UV stuff as well. You start turning all this on, you can really see what's going on, which is kind of interesting in itself. But this is how we work in production, and this is how you need to start working.